Okay, I think we're live now. Welcome to this live intermittent fasting Q&A. My name is Kayla Cox. I'm the owner of this YouTube channel, 6 Miles to Supper, also a website by the same name and a podcast by the same name. I have lost 80 pounds with intermittent fasting and walking 6 miles a day. And I've written a couple of books about that whole process. The first one is The Laid Back Guide to Intermittent Fasting. And that one is a good one if you're just trying to figure out the whole intermittent fasting thing. I did it in a very laid back kind of a way, which is different, I think, than a lot of other people. A lot of people get really legalistic and kind of stress out about types of foods and strict rules. And I really wanted this to be a sustainable thing that I could do for the rest of my life. I also wrote another book called Overcoming Weight Loss Obstacles, and that's more along the lines of the tough parts of weight loss, and things like in maintenance, what do you do, and what do you do if you start gaining weight, or what if you're not losing weight? And I tell stories about my journey and what I did. So it's good to be back. It's been a while since I've done one of these. I used to do one every single week. And then I think the last one was, several months ago. So I'm happy to be back. Thank you guys for being here. And if you have any questions about intermittent fasting, about walking, about weight loss in general, I'm here to answer them. I'm, just a regular person. I'm not a doctor or nutritionist or anything. I'm just somebody who's been there, done that, and I can share my experiences with you. And you can pop those questions into the chat box, and my husband will, he's working the chat room right now as 6 Miles to Supper, so, and he'll feed me those questions. So again, thank you guys very much for being here. And thank you, Jay, for doing the chat and all the magic that you work on the back end. So let's see. Also, to let you know, I have a podcast, the 6 Miles to Supper podcast. There's like 110 episodes already. I've done this channel and the podcast for several years, so there's a lot of content that's available. And this channel itself has like 170 plus videos, so there's plenty to keep you busy. But I know that people have questions, and so I'm happy to answer those. Okay, so just as a quick overview to my plan, because maybe you're new to the channel, maybe you just kind of are just getting started, and I'm just going to give you a quick rundown of how I lost weight, so that that way you can know, because apparently sometimes people watch like maybe 1 or 2 videos and they don't really know how I lost the weight. So I did intermittent fasting 6 days a week, take a cheat day on Sunday, and walk 6 miles a day. That's how I lost the bulk of my weight. Generally during that time I did OMAD, which stands for 1 meal a day. I eat whatever I want. I do not do the high carb, I do high carb. I don't do the high protein thing. I don't do keto, any of that stuff. Like, I just eat regular food. That's all I do. I don't limit dessert. I don't really drink soda, but that's not necessarily because of the plan. It's just something I do. I walked 6 miles 7 days a week when I was losing the bulk of my weight, but then in maintenance I walk 6 days a week, 6 miles 6 days a week, which is about 14,000 steps on my Fitbit. So that is where I'm at currently. Currently I am maintaining, and I've been maintaining, since 2018, I believe. Sorry, the years are getting away from me, but I believe it was towards the end of 2018. October 2018, there you go. And so now my plan is to maintain in the 140s. That's my goal. Now, do I sometimes go above the 140s? Yes, that has happened. Actually, this morning I was 150.8, and just got back from vacation. And if you've watched my videos on vacation, you know that that during those times I take it off. Like, I don't try to maintain. I would rather gain a few pounds and really enjoy myself on vacation than try to kind of be miserable on vacation and then stay the same way. I don't mind trying to lose a few pounds. So in maintenance, what I do is if I get above 150, that's kind of what I consider my red line. If I get above 150, I go back to doing my regular plan. That's OMAD 6 days a week, cheat day on Sunday, and walking 6 miles 6 days a week. And if I'm in the 140s though, what I do is just whatever I want to do. I've been experimenting a little bit. I've taken some time off. You may have noticed from this channel, from the podcast too. And I did that on purpose. I wanted to kind of see what do I want to do? If I'm not doing the podcast and I'm not doing this YouTube channel, like what would I naturally do? Because I think that's the more helpful thing for you guys is to know what would you naturally do if you didn't have this YouTube channel and all that. So I've experimented some, like do I want to eat lunch? Do I want to eat breakfast? And what I have found time and again is I really do enjoy OMAD. Occasionally I like to eat lunch, but I do like the simplicity of OMAD. I get the most done during the day. I enjoy food the most if I'm just doing one meal a day. So that's pretty much where I'm at right now. So, all right, so there are some questions I'm sure that are going to come in through the chat, and there are people who have submitted questions, sometimes through email, which, if you've ever emailed me, you know that you're going to get an auto response right back that basically says, due to my schedule, I can't respond to every email. I don't check my email very much, just because it can get quite overwhelming. And it multiplies, if one person, if you respond to one person, it kind of starts like a tennis game, right? A reply back and forth. And then before you know it, you've got lots of tennis games going, and it can be kind of stressful. So kind of to be equally unfair to everybody, I just take these questions and put them on a live. And so there you go. Okay, so let's see. Let's go to a question that came in on the chat. Arden Ashley Workman. Hopefully I pronounced all that correctly. Did you use any fasting aids during your fast at the beginning or when you were transitioning down to OMAD? I know you did cream in your coffee, but did you ever do bone broth or anything else? Funny you should say bone broth. I've never had bone broth in my life, which I think is like a very rare thing for anybody who does intermittent fasting. It seems like that's one of the first things they bring up, but I've never had it on hand. I've never tried it. Never felt the need for it. But okay, so fasting aids. So certainly coffee with cream. Actually, coffee with cream and sugar in the very early days, like back in 2015 when I was still, doing all this stuff and trying to figure it out. I just slowly started cutting back on sugar in my coffee. My theory was it will make fasting easier. I wasn't really concerned about the numbers of calories and sugar and breaking my fast or anything. It was just from, let's try to make this easy, and I was thinking, well, if it's got sugar, it'll probably make me hungry, or kind of feel more hunger. So I cut out the sugar from my coffee, but in the beginning, I did have it that way, and it worked fine. I was losing weight that way. So that was an aid. I would also like chew gum. Have mints if I wanted them, like little breath mints or whatever. I don't do that anymore. Like I don't feel the need, because sometimes you just kind of want something to put in your mouth, and chew on, and that can help. But that's all I did. Now I have found that things like LaCroix, any kind of the flavored unsweetened. I don't like anything with fake sugar in it, not because I think they're bad or anything. It's just they cause my stomach to get all gassy, and I don't like the way they taste either. So I just don't use any kind of artificial sweetener. But any kind of unsweetened flavored water, LaCroix, Clear American, unsweetened, bubbly. There's lots of different brands out there these days. Those have always been, for me, something to just kind of liven up your fasting period. It can get boring, when you're just fasting day after day after day, especially if you're doing OMAD, because that's there are days, right, where it's kind of stressful and it can kind of seem, monotonous or something. But if you can just have a nice cold bubbly beverage, I don't know, to me that always helped the fast seem a lot easier. I also would drink unsweetened tea, but other than that, I never do anything, I don't take one bite of food, not because I think that would break your fast, just because I've found traditionally that if you want one bite, or if I take one bite, then I'm I'd like another bite and another bite. And so I tend to just not. Now if I'm cooking dinner and stuff now, I used to be very, very strict, when I was first learning how to fast, and I got really serious about it. But since then, once I got especially down to my goal weight and stuff, I can take a bite of food and to test the seasonings, and it's totally fine. I don't notice any kind of difference in weight or anything, and I don't continue to eat. That's the magic part of learning how to fast, is that you do get some self-control. So, okay, let's see. Here's so hopefully that answers your question, or if you need me to follow up with anything, just put it in the chat. Cup of Tea asked, which Fitbit do you recommend for tracking steps? Okay, so I don't know. Can you see this? That's the one I have, and I've had it for, wow, a lot of years now. It's a Fitbit Alta, and I'm sure they have lots of newer versions by now. I like the Alta because I just really wanted something to track my steps, but I also wanted the actual number of steps on there. Like the first one I had was a Flex, and I liked the Flex, except for it didn't show you the number of steps. It just like showed this little dot. And in the early days of getting your steps in, like it was difficult to not know, like, okay, I'm like really making progress. It took a long time to like get another dot on the screen. So I like the count that goes in the clock. But now with Fitbit, my first one lasted, I think, about a year or so, and then it stopped working, and then I went for a while and just used my phone as a pedometer, which does work fine, but I just like having the Fitbit. I like the badges. It helps motivate me. It's fun, and I can remember it. All I have to do is strap it on my wrist the first thing in the morning. I have a hard time remembering to put my phone in my pocket. Sometimes I don't have pockets, and it's a whole thing. So that's why I like Fitbits. Other brands I'm sure work fine. It's just that Fitbit is the brand I have. So I like the Alta. Let's see. Erin. And also like the Fitbit because it has the Fitbit app, and that's how I've tracked my weight. That's where I put my weight in every morning. But I also keep track of my weight on my 7-day average weight tracker spreadsheet thing. I still do use that, and I still keep track of my 7-day average because it helps me. Okay, let's see. Erin, thanks. I'm glad that you started following 6 months ago and you finally caught a live. Well, it's been quite a while since I've done one of these, like I said. So hopefully you're enjoying this. Ian Porter asked, will your podcast be coming back? Okay, yeah, so it will. This whole 6 Miles to Suffer thing is kind of a long story, but the long and short of it is I started this channel thinking it would be a few videos I would upload, maybe it would help some people, and it kind of turned into this full-time job, which was great because we were traveling, and that was awesome. And I was doing like a podcast episode a week. I was doing 1 to 2 videos a week, including like an hour-long live. I had courses, and I wrote 2 books, and it was just a lot of stuff. I was doing one-on-one coaching. And it worked, and it was great, but there were a couple problems. One was that it was like the roles got reversed, like with me and my husband. Like instead of me being mostly household stuff and him being like mostly work stuff, it was kind of flipped. And I didn't like that as much because I really enjoy the home stuff, and I homeschool my kids too. And so there were a couple things there, but the other part of it really was that weight has been a lifelong struggle for me, like since the time I was 6 years old. I mean, that's my first memory of really having a weight problem. And so this has been like the biggest pain point in my life, but also this like learning about intermittent fasting and losing the weight for the first time in my life, like really not only losing the weight in what felt like a really easy way, but also sustainable, because I've been able to keep it off now for, let's see, since 2016. So that's like 5 years of keeping it off. And so it's great, but also has put more pressure on that. Like I wrote a book about it, and it's difficult when you put something down in print to then that's your reality now. It's like you wrote a book about this, and it just puts a lot of pressure. And I didn't like having that pressure. I also felt like it might change how I would actually interact. Like I mentioned earlier, it might actually change how I behave because of having this podcast and everything. So I didn't like having our sole income be dependent on this channel. And my husband didn't like that either, I'm sure. now we are in a different place where my husband does his own thing and provides for the family in that way, so I don't have that as like, this doesn't have to bring in the income, and which has taken the pressure off and has given me some perspective. And so, but with that, I don't have as much time to devote to this as I did previously, because previously it was my full-time job, and now it's something on the side that I like to do. So, so the podcast will be coming back. I'm going to do episodes as I have time to do them. It'll be on a more, like, probably, I'm thinking monthly to every 2 weeks type of thing. I'm trying to get back into the groove, and get everything kind of lined up where everything's getting taken care of. So, and there's some other stuff that my schedule has changed a bit for, things that I don't really want to mention on here. But anyway, so as my schedule allows, basically. So, all right. So hopefully that answers your question. Rocio Meyer? I hope I pronounced your name correctly. Do you eventually stop thinking about food outside your eating window? I find myself thinking about food most of my day. Well, yes, I would say that as you get better at fasting. So in the beginning, fasting is strange. It's like, this is weird and people around me are not doing this, and and it can really feel in the beginning like, oh man, I normally eat at 8, and by like 8:05 it's like, why haven't I eaten yet, right? So it can feel really difficult at first, and the best advice I ever read about this was on oh gosh, his name just totally left me. Oh, and I've already forgotten the name of the website. I first learned about intermittent fasting from
Lean Gains.
Lean Gains. Oh my gosh, I can't believe I forgot that. Yes, and I can't think of the guy's name at all. Anyway, his website. His best.
Martin Burkhan, right?
Martin Burkhan. Yeah, thank you,
I
Jim.
remember things.
You remember. He remembers everything, and I have a terrible memory. Anyway, his advice was, don't sit around and brood about food. And that was really good advice for me, because in the beginning, that was what I needed to do. I just needed to get busy doing something. And for me, one thing that really helped was having my step goal in place, because that gave me something to do. It gave me something to work towards, because it's like, you don't realize how much time is filled up with food related things, like making breakfast, eating breakfast, cleaning up from breakfast, and same for lunch, and if you have snacks, same thing. And it's like it creates this void, this like kind of like this big chunk of time. And what are you going to do with that time? Well, if you sit around and think about food and think about how you're not eating breakfast, it's going to be really difficult. But if you instead will like clean your house, or go out for a walk, or like read a book, draw something, talk to your friends, make a phone call, write a letter, write an email, you can use that time, like just fill up the time, stay busy. And I think that there's this other part, which is eventually you have to learn how to not be busy. And that was something that as time went on, I learned. But in the beginning, it was all about just stay busy for now. Just stay busy and lose the weight. And then as you start to kind of wind down, then you can start to just get okay with being still and having some silence in your day and some space to think about things. So yeah, but in the beginning, stay busy. That's my best advice. And eventually it's intermittent fasting is a skill. Okay, it's not magic. It's a skill. The more you do it, the more you practice it. And practice is the word. Like, you're not going to be perfect, but just practice it. You will get better at it. And as you get better at it, it just feels easier, and you start to learn, like, okay, I need to eat a little bit more at my meal because it's going to feel really difficult otherwise, or I need to eat a little less because I was miserable after that meal. And you just kind of learn. You learn, what helps keep you busy, and the activities that you can kind of get lost in, and how to structure your day, and then eventually it really is easy. So hopefully that helps you. Okay, Robert Gregor asks, I'm stalling on a 16-8. Should I extend the hours? Okay, so this is a common thing that happens. Let me take a sip of water. a lot of people find that they do stall out on a 16-8. And like I say all the time, I'm firmly convinced that there's no magic to intermittent fasting. You're limiting your calories, and it's easier to do because you're squishing your eating window down, and it's harder to eat too many calories. So if you just go ahead and squish your hours a little bit more, it will be by, just kind of, it's like a natural thing. A thing that happens is that you will eat less. And usually people find that if they go from a 16-8 to like an 18-6, then the scale starts moving down again. But there are a couple of factors that I would say to think about. The first factor is, what does your life currently look like, and why did you choose a 16-8 to begin with? If it's that your life just works better with a 16-8, like maybe having any kind of longer of a fasting window just wouldn't work in your life for whatever reason, then stick with the 16-8. And to me, this is harder because then you have to go into portion control, which I'm not great at. I'm just not. But even after all these years, I still have struggles with, like eating just the right amount of food over multiple meals. So 16-8, like I think you kind of, if you're stuck there. Now, another thing to ask yourself is, are you really stuck? I like to weigh myself daily and keep track of my 7-day average. And then I like to look at how that 7-day average is trending over several weeks to see if I've really stalled out or not. Sometimes what's happening is you're not really plateauing, you're just losing slower. So you are losing, it just slows down. To give you an idea, I lost at the rate of about a pound a week when I had the bulk of my weight to lose. When I lost like the last set of weight that I lost, that was a third of a pound a week. So it was very slow. That's so slow that, if you're just paying attention to just that number on the scale every day, it's really hard to know, am I losing weight or not? But if you're averaging out and then you're also looking at the trend over several weeks, say 3 to 6 weeks, then you can see that downward progression. So hopefully that helps you. I do not, and I never have, limit the types of food. I don't do the whole, I'm not gonna have dessert anymore or anything like that. I eat all the foods that I love, and that has worked for me. Okay, let's see. JC Davis says this is perfect timing. She is getting on summer break, and she's going to go back to alternate day fasting. And also, someone had emailed me a question about alternate day fasting. She wondered, and her name was Janice. She wrote a very sweet email, and so thank you, Janice, if you're watching. But she asked, have I ever tried alternate day fasting? And I haven't. So just to let you know, if you've never heard the term before, what does that mean, alternate day fasting? Well, it's very similar to what you might guess. It just means really like fasting every other day. And most people, when they say fasting in this sense, they mean like actually no food during that day of fasting. So, but some people modify it a bit and do like 500 calories that day. So okay, on Monday, let's say that's a regular day. You just eat however you want. Then Tuesday, that's your fasting day. You eat nothing. Or maybe you eat 500 calories if you're doing the modified plan. Then Wednesday, you go back to eating, just however you want to eat. And so I've never done that. I've never even tried to do that. I've heard, that some people have good success with it, and I don't doubt that they do. The reason I haven't even tried it is because it just doesn't fit well with my own life and my own personality. So as far as personality goes, I have a hard time keeping up with what day it is. So sometimes I'm thinking all day it's Wednesday and really it's Thursday. So that's the first problem for me. And the second problem is that I have a family. I have 3 kids and I have a husband, and a big thing we do every day, or yeah, pretty much every day. We have date night on Friday, but otherwise we have family dinner. So we sit down for supper, sit around the table, no devices, no TV on, nothing, just being present with each other and eating. And it changes things if you're sitting there and you're not eating, or if you're trying to eat very little, I have found. Like, for example, I've done a couple of 5-day fasts, and during my 5-day fast, my kids do want me to eat at the table with, like, eat at the table with them. So I just sit there and they eat and I don't. And that is weird. It's not so much difficult on the faster. It's pretty difficult on the people who are not fasting and who are just eating in front of you. It's awkward. It's kind of like, why don't you enjoy the meal with us, that kind of thing. And it doesn't really help when sometimes I give them a hard time and I'm like, oh, it smells so good, you know. But I have found, so I know that if I tried to do alternate day fasting, it would seem like kind of hard to do it for me. I think on just the fasting end, like if my life was totally different, if I was just a single person, I think I could do alternate day fasting just from a fasting standpoint. There are occasions when I have gone, like, say 36 hours or a bit more between meals, and I've enjoyed that. I think I would do just fine with alternate day fasting. Again, just for me, just doesn't work with my schedule. So I would say, if it appeals to you, like if you look at your life and say, hey, that would work, I think, then try it out and see how it goes, like at least 6 weeks, I would say. I always say, try something for 6 weeks, because you really don't know, like on the scale, that your weight's going to fluctuate and everything. But if you track your weight for like 6 weeks and you're consistent with your plan, that's another big part. You have to be consistent with the plan and tracking your weight. And if then you can see, like, is this plan actually working or not? Okay, let's see. Sonia in Florida asked, does your faith help you with your eating? So this is a great question, one I've thought about a lot, because it is something I certainly know about myself, that I still do struggle with portion control. It is something I pray about and that I work on myself about. And I would say that, yeah, it does help. Back in my I've had enough moment back in 2014, that was probably my lowest moment ever. And I remember at that time, I was, very humiliated and just, I was even thinking thoughts like my family would be better off without me. And I mean, it was some bad thoughts. And in that moment, I asked God for help. I just said, God, help me. And he did. I mean, he really has. I really do believe that God helped me. I mean, it wasn't like the next day I woke up 80 pounds lighter and it's like, oh yay, no problems. It was like a lot of work. And so he helps me, yes, but I think he expects a lot of effort to come forth from those he helps. So yeah, it does help me. And certainly during the longer fast too. I did those for health reasons, but also more for spiritual reasons, certainly not for weight loss. I waited until I got down to the weight I was happy at before I ever did the 5-day fast. And I like the longer fasting for spiritual things and not so much for the weight loss stuff, because I've found that your weight does bounce back up after a long fast like that. So there you go. Let's see here. Okay. Let's see. Vanny, I think. It might be Vani. Says, I'm an avid follower of your channel. Well, thank you. By the way, I'm an Asian Indian vegetarian. I'm on 16/8 for nearly a year and a half and have not seen the scales moving. However, I cannot stress enough to say that I've eliminated a lot of junk food out of my routine, and her blood work is looking good. It's awesome in terms of internal health and well-being. I'm not able to figure out what I'm doing wrong for the scales to not move. Yesterday I was watching your videos and am tempted to do OMAD to see if I have any results. I had a single question regarding this. I am a coffee drinker, 2 cups a day. Basically, I cannot function without coffee. So my question was, am I allowed to have coffee with milk and Splenda in the morning while on OMAD? I've never had black coffee in my life, and I don't think I will like it. So is coffee with milk and Splenda allowed on OMAD twice a day? So I'd say yes. Again, I have not done a lot or really anything with artificial sweeteners. Again, not because I feel like they affected anything, just because I don't like them. But I did, and I still continue to have coffee at least 2 cups a day, sometimes 3, sometimes 4, sometimes more. It kind of depends on like what's going on in my life. I've never limited my coffee is the point. That was the thing when I was first setting up my plan. I thought, okay, what would make this really easy? And one thing I thought was, if I could have coffee whenever I want during the fasting window with cream, and at that time actually it was cream with sugar. If I could do that, well, then I could make it through the fasting window. And in the early days, boy, it really, really helped me to be able to, because there are times where you do get hungry and it's just like, well, I don't want to eat right now. But if I had coffee, it just gave me that like full feeling, and I made it, through the rest of the day. So yeah, I would say go for it. I've never worried about that, like, it's in the fasting window, and yes, people call this dirty fasting, and yes, I've done it. I've always done it, and I love dirty fasting. So it's been the thing that has helped make it seem very, very doable and sustainable. So yeah, I would say go for it. Laura asks, I am curious to know if your 6-mile walk is just from walking or if it's steps accumulated throughout the day. So I'm probably overthinking this, but if she doesn't have have a step goal, she averages about 8,000 steps a day, and so she's wondering, should she add 14,000 steps to do like 22,000 steps total, or just the 14,000 steps? Now, everybody's going to be different. And your eating habits are going to be different than mine, and so the amount you eat is going to be different. But what I found for myself was 6 miles a day, just total steps. Okay, 14,000 total steps. That's all that I ever have required for myself. So that's incidental steps. So if I spent all day cleaning house, which never really happens, but if it did, I would and like at the end of the day, I'd say 14,000 steps. Well, I'm done. I don't go for a walk to get my steps in. But then there are other times, I'm the type of person who loves to read, and I am I think a naturally kind of sedentary person. Like, I just can be. I'm not my husband is kind of like always up and around and moving around, and that's just how he's built. And I'm more of I could sit there all day kind of thing. And so I have to be intentional about my steps is the point. I don't, this person gets 8,000 steps a day, not me. I mean, I remember in the beginning, and this was one of those, really eye-opening types of things. I got a Fitbit, it was December of 2014. Got a Fitbit, and I had 3 small kids at the time, and I thought, oh man, I probably get 10,000 steps a day just by being a mom, right? That was my thought. And then I looked down at my Fitbit, and I only had 2,000 steps, at the end of the day, at the end of a very busy day. And I thought, maybe I'm not as active as I really think I am. And I did that for a couple more days just to see if that was an off day. No, it was for real. I do not get many steps in of my own accord. I have to be intentional. I walk in my house so that I never have an excuse the weather's bad, I couldn't get out for my walk today. But I will also go for walks outside. It just kind of depends on what our schedule is like. So there you go. So every step counts, basically, is the way. And I would do, my goal was always 14,000 steps by midnight. So there were times in the early days I had such a hard time managing my day so that I got my steps in. And there were days where I didn't have very many at 9 o'clock at night, but I would just walk in my house, walk and walk and walk. And Jay would be watching TV, and I'd just make laps around the couch, and I'd get them in. So there you go. Let's see. Somebody has a question about, this is Angelia. And thanks. I'm glad you enjoyed the audiobook. Both of my books are available on Audible, so you can check those out if you're more of a listener than like a reader. I did record them, so it's read by the author. So her question, whoops, sorry, I lost it, is how did you do walking in your house? Marching in place while watching a movie or walking in circles around a coffee table? It's so funny to me that it's like one of those things, it never occurred to me to, like, you could just walk in your house. It was one of those things that I started to notice. I had a step goal, but I would always find excuses like, oh, well, it's kind of windy outside, or oh, it was raining today, or oh, it's too late to go out and you walk around the neighborhood. People are going to think I'm up to something. I don't know. So one day I thought, I wonder if I could walk in my house. Just like, what if I got all of my steps inside the house today? So I tried it. And so what I started doing was just like basically just laps in my house. I would just like walk from my bedroom to the end of the hallway, or, that was like across the whole house, or, walking in my bedroom even. Like that was something I did in the earlier days. I would like walk from the head of my bed down to, the foot of the bed, then over, and then up to the other side of the head of the bed, and just make those laps. Some people would get dizzy. I know that. My husband is one of those people who gets dizzy really easily. I'm not one of those people. I can read also while I am walking. That's something that happened later. I couldn't do that at first, but so I just walk. Like when I'm walking inside my house, I'm just walking like from the bathroom to the kitchen to the kids' room to back to my bedroom, and I'm just like making laps. I lived in an RV, a Class C, so it was pretty small, and for 2 years, there were a lot of days where I got my steps inside that RV, which was pacing back and forth like, it couldn't have been more than 10 paces, like it was very, very few paces back and forth. But I would just pace back and forth. And I have marched in place too. I don't like that as much just because I don't think it really matters from like a calorie burn perspective or anything like that. But just, I didn't enjoy it. But some people, that's how they do it. They just march in place. And like basically whatever floats your boat is how you can do it. So, and a follow-up question to that is usually, how big was your house? Because some people think I was living in some sort of mansion or something. But no, like from like 1,000 square foot house to like 2,000 square foot back down to like 1,100 square feet over the years, and in the RV. So it really doesn't matter how big your place is. You just have to make a commitment like, I'm going to do this, and you'll figure out a way. Let's see here. Hey, Pat Swan, you are on here. I hope you're still here. Hey, miss you. I just was thinking about you the other day. Hope you're doing well. Susan Bundy asked, are you still living in the RV? No, we stopped, back when the pandemic hit. It was like early May. We had already kind of decided to stop RVing like several months previous to that. We were just kind of like trying to figure out where we wanted to land. And then it really clinched it for us when the pandemic hit, because parks were being kind of crazy with the rules. You never knew what to expect. Like Florida state parks all got closed, and then we had to go up into Georgia, and it was just a big time of uncertainty. So we got back into a traditional house, so we've really been enjoying living in just a regular old house. So Jason Chisholm, I'm not sure which way to pronounce that. Welcome back. We've missed you. Well, I've missed you guys. Can you give suggestions on how to quit snacking? Just don't do it. That's actually that would be also if you're having trouble on a 16/8. I meant to mention this before. If you're having trouble on a 16/8, cut out snacking. Just don't snack. Like eat enough at your meal to keep you full until your next meal. Don't do the snacking thing. Snacking is like what I found, and this is just my own experience, and you may be different, but what I found with snacking was it was usually tied to emotional eating. So in other words, I'm bored, so how am I going to fill my time? I'm going to eat. Or I'm stressed out right now, let's eat a snack. Like so many times, it was so funny. Like by this point, I was pretty good at intermittent fasting. Like it wasn't like I was hungry, but I would just like find myself just in, in the middle of my fasting window at the pantry, like looking in the pantry, and it's like, why are you looking in the pantry right now? Like there's nothing there for you because you're in your fasting window. But I started to try to notice like what's going through my head right now, or what just happened. And so many times it was tied to things having to do with stress, money. Like, oh, the budget's not looking great this month for whatever reason. Like we've been self-employed for, gosh, I've forgotten now. Jay, do you remember how many years? Like a long time, like over a decade, certainly. Like maybe 15,
Yeah,
15.
since 2010.
Right, so,
11 years.
Oh, 11 years. Okay, 11 years. 11 years of, what can be kind of an unstable kind of paycheck. Like some months are great and other months are kind of down. And so a lot of times that's what the stress was. There was like some sort of money thing. Or, like losing my patience with my kids. Like, I just yelled at them. I didn't, I'm not being patient, go to the pantry, and I started to notice these things like, oh, wow, like there are these things that I'm doing. And then my like behavior was like this learned behavior I had was now go have a snack and you'll feel better, and which it does help you feel better. And that I think is the big challenge of weight loss in general is food does make you feel better. Like comfort food is a thing. It really does make you feel like if you're sad and you eat a chocolate chip cookie, you will feel happy, or at least I do. So then learning how to say, okay, we can have chocolate chip cookies at some point, but not right now because we're fasting, and then figuring out why am I stressed right now, and going back to the root cause. Like, so for example, the budget stuff, learning how to do better with our budget, save our money more, like try to plan for the down months, that kind of thing. That's been a whole process, but learning how to do that has really decreased our stress levels. Things like with my kids, one thing I learned about myself was, wow, usually when I'm like snapping at my kids, it's because I was on my phone. Like I was looking down at my phone and they're, trying to get my attention, and then I snap at them, and then I feel bad that I snapped at the kid because I'm like, oh, I shouldn't, I should be more patient. And so then what I started to say was, okay, I've got to learn to be more patient, and that is practice. Like you got to practice being patient, got to practice pausing before reacting, and putting down the phone more, learning how to do that, and that's again been a practice. But and then so once I started dealing with those things, not snacking was a lot easier, because it was like I didn't need that thing to help me get through that time because I wasn't being stressed, and then also just being like really stubborn with myself, like, well, you may like a snack right now, but you're not having one, so deal with the thing. Like just dealing with the thing, like go deal with that thing that's stressing you out. It's a hard habit to get into, but it helps. So there you go. And then also just learning that, wow, I was eating a lot because of snacking. That kind of helped me to change my behavior too. Like, okay, this is something I need to get under control. So, and then also eat plenty at your meals. Like that's another thing. If you're getting really, really hungry in between your meals, you're probably not eating enough at the meal. But if you're eating plenty at the meal and you're just kind of like realizing you're stressing out about stuff, then deal with stuff that's stressing you out. Okay, Sample MM asked, how did you keep the holidays from derailing you? So holidays are much like vacation, and other days off that I take holidays off. I take so that means like my birthday, Mother's Day, all those good things. If people come in from out of town, I usually just kind of pause my plan for a bit because I've found that my schedule gets all out of whack and it's just less stressful to be like, okay, well, for right now, I'm not on my plan, or I'm on a plan. It's just modified, I should say. But let's see, Jay, did you delete that question? Because now I have. Oh, can you? He needs to undo what he just did because I forgot what the question was. Oh, it was about getting derailed on the holidays. Sorry. So here's what I do on the holidays. I say, especially Christmas. Christmas is like the big holiday where I like take basically December off. I mean, now that doesn't mean every single day I'm like eating like tons of food. That's not what I mean. I just mean there's a lot of off days because there, so many things during December. Like there are cookies to be made. There are movies to be watched. There's lots of fun family things that we do, and it was just something that like when I was forming my plan, I thought, like during Christmas, I want that to be a thing where I can eat cookies. Like if I want to have cookies, if my kids want to make cookies, I want to make that happen. So my rules, I still have rules, and I still weigh every day. I think that if I had to pick like one thing, I think the fact that I weigh every day, even during the holidays, I think that helps me to not get way off track because the temptation at first, I thought, well, maybe I shouldn't weigh. And then I realized like that's a terrible plan because in the past, here's how I've gotten in trouble with weight stuff. Like I said, I've always had weight issues. And so what I would generally do is like stop weighing. And then once I stopped weighing, I never wanted to get on the scale because it's like, well, I'm going to have, it's going to be a higher number. I'll wait till, later I'll like lose some weight and then I'll get on the scale. And so instead I just made a decision back in 2015, like February of 2015. Okay. I weighed myself for the first time after years and I was like, way above what I thought I was. I was 222.2. I thought at the time I was like 185, and I was being like really generous with myself there. I thought, well, really, it's probably like 170 something, but maybe it's like 180. So I was way off basically, and that was a wake up call for me. I didn't realize, how off I was in my like self perception. So weighing every day really, really helps. And then having some sort of a plan. So like, here's how my general plan works. On those days where we have nothing planned, I'll go ahead and do OMAD. Okay, so like I'm having one meal a day. It's like my regular plan. But if we're going somewhere, doing something, then I'll eat with my family. So whatever that means. So like if we're taking the whole day to make nut rolls, which is a big day in our house, I'm going to take the whole day off. We're going to be eating a lot of nut rolls and having a good time. And so, but those days, like when you add it all up, it's not, I don't think it's really as many as it seems like. I just, what I've found is that on like my, if you want to call it the worst years, I think it was like maybe 3 pounds. I think it was like 3 or 4 pounds that I gained. I don't remember there being a 5 pound year, but there could have been. But it's not so bad. And I accept the consequences. Like, okay, if you gain 5 pounds, it means you got to lose 5 pounds. When we get back, into January, it's time to go back to, like OMAD 6 days a week, and that's what I do. And that's been so helpful to just be like, yeah, well, weight gain will happen from time to time. I mean, there are things like holidays and vacations, and then, I'm also aware that life's been pretty good, like in this period of time that we're talking about for the past 5 years, but there may be tragedy up ahead. And so I try to prepare myself mentally, like if that happens, it's quite possible that I would gain weight then. But I always know how to get it back off. Doing the plan on those days where I can do the plan, but then really enjoying those times. One thing I have found about the holidays is to really enjoy, just really enjoy it instead of trying to be like, well, I'm gonna only have just the one cookie. I'll make cookies, but I won't eat the batter, and I'll just have like one. I don't do well with that kind of like restriction and stuff because inevitably, if I do something like that, I'm gonna end up eating the cookies and having the batter and then feeling guilty. So instead I've just decided, okay, on those days off, I am off plan. So there you go. Let's see. Oh wow, so Daniel has lost 16 kilograms, which is 33 pounds in 6 months. So congratulations, Daniel, that's awesome. Melissa Lewis asked, fasting to will fasting get rid of belly fat? And what about calorie counting or just feast well in the eating window? Okay, so here's the thing about belly fat. I have some, like I do, like you can't, I don't think you can really see it on here, but I don't know, I have a stomach, okay, because I've had 3 kids. And that's just life. Like I don't know. Like maybe I could get down to a lower weight. I'm sure that I could. I know for sure it would take more restriction than just simply OMAD 6 days a week. Like I would probably have to start doing some sort of like calorie counting type thing, and maybe more exercise and that kind of thing. But I've had 3 kids, and without surgery, I don't know that there's a whole lot that I can do about that. And I just know that different body types, or like some people just kind of naturally carry weight in their abdomen. Some people don't. Some people carry it lower or higher, and it's just like the cards you're dealt. So I think that it really depends on your body type. But what I've come to just accept things like, oh well, I've got a bit of belly fat, like that's part of it. I think a lot of women do. I think in our culture it's kind of like you see all this skinny airbrushed people on magazines and stuff, and it sometimes seems like, oh well, if you've got belly fat then you're in the minority, and I would be interested to see if we didn't airbrush stuff and we didn't Photoshop stuff, what bodies would really look like, especially, just if you took a sample of the population. So, and, there's the aspect of, is that really what's important in the big scheme of things? I don't think it is. I think that in the big scheme of things, I think it's important to be healthy, but I try not to worry too much about looks. So that's just people, your body eventually ages too, like it gets wrinkles, and it's just part of life. So I've just tried to embrace all of that. So hopefully that helps you. Let's see. Okay, Robert had a question. Robert Greger said, could you have lost your weight on a 16-8, or do I need to move to OMAD? So I'm not sure. Okay, when I was doing the 16-8, I still had this thought of like, well, if I'm losing weight on a 16-8, well then I'll lose faster on an 18-6. So man, if I move it to a 24, then I'll definitely lose faster. And man, if I do OMAD, which I accidentally started doing, then I'll really lose fast. But what I saw when I looked back at my data, because in the moment it felt like, oh yeah, it's going faster now that I'm down to OMAD. If I look back at my data though, it was really about a pound a week with whatever I was doing. So, but then what happened for me was I really liked OMAD. I was like, well, this is like super easy. I don't have to think about food. I was able to like have so much more free time, and at that time in my life, especially with small kids and everything, it was like, oh wow, this is like magic. So I don't know. I don't know if I would have, or if I would have felt, like based on my eating, I feel fairly confident that I probably would have had to move to like at least like an 18-6 or a 24, just because I like bigger portions and all that. But it's hard to say because I didn't do it. But OMAD ultimately was what worked best for me. So there you go. Wow, well, we are 57 minutes in and we still have a lot of questions, you guys. That's awesome. Let's see. Star Wars, you asked, you have one kitty, can you do OMAD? Talk to your doctor. I'm not one, but I would encourage you to talk to them. What do you recommend? Kirkwood82 asked, what do you recommend to control hunger while fasting? Keeping busy. If you're just dealing with like you want to drink something or something like that, coffee, do coffee with cream, LaCroix, unsweetened tea, things like that. But mainly stay busy and eat plenty at your meals, or meal, depending on what you're doing. So John Blaney says, I just started OMAD only a weekend, but getting used to it nicely. Did you notice hunger feelings start to subside? Got a long journey ahead, but really encouraged by your interviews. Well, great. Let's see. I did. I got to OMAD really, really gradually. Like I started out with like an 8-hour fasting window, and I just pushed breakfast a little bit later and a little bit later, and then eventually it was like, oh, my first meal is lunch now, and so then it was like, and then I pushed lunch a little later. So it was very, very gradual for me. So I didn't notice as much hunger as I'm sure you are. Like if you just jumped from eating 3 times a day until OMAD, generally based on just conversations I've had with people, they say about 2 weeks is what it takes to really adapt to it. I sometimes am adapting back. Like for example, I was just on vacation, like I said, and so on those days I'm all day eating. You know how you do on vacation. It's kind of like snacks, and you're going out to eat, and then but then when I got back, I went back to OMAD like the very next day, and it was like nothing. Like it was just not even a transition for me. So I think it's just one of those things. As you get used to it, then you can really transition back and forth really easily. But yeah, I would say 2 weeks. You should be nice and adjusted. Let's see. Daniel Salazar. I'm stuck at a 21.3. I tried to do OMAD, but I started to feel sick after 21 or 22 hours. What should you do to reach OMAD? Well, again, eating enough at your one. If you're just doing the one meal, making sure you're eating plenty. Like one thing I have noticed about the nausea is it does pass, and I hate feeling nauseous though. So like I always am like, if I ever start to feel that way, I'm like, okay, next time I need to eat more of a meal. But your body does adjust. Like I was just saying, like there was a time when after vacation, if I came back, from just eating normally, and then the first day of doing OMAD, I would have been like, ooh, not feeling that good. But now I don't do that anymore. I think it's just because my body is so used to it. So what I would do in your case is I would go ahead and eat whenever you feel nauseous. Like, so if you're starting to say like, okay, at hour 21 I feel nauseous. Okay, well then, stay there for a bit, and then just bump it out by like 15 minutes. And then when you get used to that, bump it out by another 15 and another 15. And eventually you'll get there. Everything worthwhile takes time, right? So I like that quote. Let's see. Do you have problems with being tired? Oh, wow. Megas Portrat. I hope I pronounced your name correctly. Do you have problems with being tired after one meal? I don't. Well, okay. I get sleepy sometimes. Like, I don't know. I've not been able to nail it down exactly. Like, there are just certain days, and it may be like a hormonal thing, but there are times where it's like, if I've done just OMAD, and then after my meal, I could, if I wanted to, just lay down and go to sleep. But yeah, I generally, I don't feel that way. Generally, I just feel good, and we usually eat about 6 o'clock, and then I'm usually in bed by 8 or so. So I go to bed pretty early anyway. So and sometimes we eat even later. So it doesn't affect me too much. Is my point. If I was doing my OMAD in the middle of the day, that might be more of an issue for me. But let's see here. And somebody was wanting to know, or was talking about the interviews that I do, the success stories. Hopefully I'll get a couple more of those lined up. Like I said, I've been kind of taking a break from the channel, but I'm going to be reaching out to some people that have emailed me about that, and we'll see if we can get some interviews up here. So I always want to make sure that people really understand the implications of doing that. It can kind of put more of a spotlight on your weight loss, and that can create its own stresses. So, but I know that people find them helpful. So, and back to calorie counting, because someone else had a question about calorie counting. How many calories do you have a day? It's going to be a really unsatisfying answer, and I don't know. I've not counted my calories in years and years and years. Back in 2016, 2015, I started counting calories. I was like, okay, I got to count the calories, got to log on the food. Did that on the Fitbit app. I was like super, like exact with it. Like if there wasn't like an exact match, I would put in all the measurements and everything. And I was at one point weighing and measuring all my food. making myself just absolutely miserable. And so there was just this day where I said, you know what? I'm not going to count calories. I was so resentful of it. And my theory was, I just have to watch the scale. And if the scale's trending down, it means I'm eating, in a deficit. If the scale's trending up, I'm eating too many calories. And if it's staying the same, then that means I'm in a, equilibrium. I'm eating just the right amount to maintain. So that's what I did. And so I don't know. I'm sure you could, figure out my lean body mass maybe and figure out my activity level, which varies from day to day, and then do those calculations, and that would give you a rough idea. Like I said, I'm maintaining right now, so I'm sure there are formulas you could use, but again, I've just found it's too stressful. So, but some people do have really good success and they really enjoy counting calories, and if that's you, more power to you. Melissa Lewis said, do you feel walking 6 miles a day is important to lose the weight or diet? Let's see. Okay, so, I think, so you're asking which is more important to weight loss. Is it the fasting or is it the walking? And I always want to say it's both. It doesn't matter, and it matters a whole lot. So from a calorie burn perspective, I think it's kind of a wash, because I'm pretty sure that walking 6 miles a day makes me hungrier than I would otherwise be. So like, in other words, if I didn't walk at all, I wouldn't be as hungry. I wouldn't consume as many calories, and so it kind of evens out. But like I said before, especially in the beginning, it was really important for me to stay busy, and the thing that kept me busy was my steps. So there's that aspect. It was like a mutually beneficial thing, or like reinforcing thing, mutually reinforcing. So like, the steps helped me stay consistent with fasting, and being consistent with the fasting helped me to be consistent with the steps. It was just like, okay, because I need my steps in, so okay, then I got through my fasting window, okay, now, let's start the whole thing over. And also, I noticed a big help with, it helped me to figure out things, like I can think a lot more clearly when I'm walking, so like all the emotional eating stuff. It was really helpful to have a 6 mile walk to figure all that stuff out, because, in the beginning, a lot of times I was listening to stuff, I was listening to podcasts, I was, watching Netflix, all these things. But eventually I got to the point where I was like, okay, I can just walk and think. And that helped me to get clarity on things like, okay, I need to, try to be more patient. Well, how can I do that? Like, what are the things that I could do? And so it was super helpful. So it was really, really important. Could you lose weight without walking 6 miles a day? Absolutely. People do it all the time. There have been plenty of people that have come on my channel, and people that have just written me and said, I didn't do any exercise at all. I just did the fasting, and it worked, and they got down to the weight they wanted to be. So, yeah. If you're interested in being interviewed, Jay can put in the, can't remember if we have a special email or form. I think there's a form we have. It's been a while, so he'll look into that. But like I said, if you think about it for a while before you just sign up for it, because it does kind of put a spotlight on your weight loss, and I don't want to ever add to somebody's stress levels, or make their journey harder, because it's hard enough already. Even when you're doing the easiest thing possible, it can be difficult. Let's see. Oh, thanks, Kelly, for your kind comments, Kelly McKay. Let's see. So Arden says, I struggle with cooking for other people when I'm fasting. Pouring a bowl of cereal for my kids is fine, but cooking a meal and not eating is hard. How did you manage that when you were doing a 5-day fast? So that's really funny, because I know what you mean. When you're pouring a bowl of cereal, any kind of cold stuff, it's like really easy, right? But it's like when you're standing over a frying pan of, eggs or something, it's like, oh man, it smells amazing. And there's something with fasting where your senses are just heightened, which is one thing I really like about fasting, is that it makes it so that I really enjoy the food. Like things that I used to think had no taste at all, like black beans and rice. It's like, wow, once you've been fasting for a while, it just has so much flavor. So, it's really, I kind of liked to look at this stuff as like challenges, right? Like it's almost like a game. I would do this so just not eating, like it's like I'm just not gonna eat. So I would sometimes like kind of make it harder on myself, and maybe it made it easier too. I would like really inhale, like it smells so good, and really just trying to enjoy the smell. And I know that's, it's not as good as eating it, I get that, but there's something satisfying about that, just like really enjoying the smell of the food is helpful. But also I would do things like in the past when I was learning how to fast, I would pick up, like there'd be a cookie on the table, right? And I would pick it up, and I would then put it back down, and man, it's like, it makes you stronger. It's an interesting kind of thing that can help you to just get better at it. And every time you cook a meal and you don't eat a bite of it, and every time you pick up that cookie but then you put it back down because like, oh, I'm fasting, you just get stronger and better at it, and then it gets easier. It's like reps. It's just exactly like reps in a gym. You're lifting that weight, and at first it's really, really heavy. It's really, really hard, but eventually it gets a lot easier. So it takes practice. And then during my 5-day fast, basically same thing, just not eating isn't that hard. It's a weird kind of thing, or at least for me, it wasn't hard. I was in but physical agony in this last one. It was, there's a whole, like I did a blog post about it. I think I even made a video about it, but it was a tough 5-day fast. But it's not about the food. It's like my lower back really hurts when I'm doing those. And it's really not the food. The food just kind of like, it's just not a thing. I don't know. Like it's really not a thing so much. Even today, although when I'm baking bread, that's kind of a tough one. Like that smell is there, and it makes me want to eat it. But I can have it during my meal, and it works out okay. So it gets easier with practice, basically. Let's see. So, Fat to Fit, Gabby, I think I've pretty much answered the stuff about calculating calories. And so the method that helped me lose all my weight was OMAD, so 1 meal a day, eating whatever I wanted at my meal. That was really important. I don't know that I've emphasized that enough. Eating whatever I want. And I eat pretty high carb. I don't eat probably as much protein as most people would say that you should, but I like carbs, and so and I eat just real food, just stuff. I do cook a lot, so we don't eat much or really any fast food. We don't eat out that often, so I make stuff from scratch, but that also includes baked goods and stuff. So, but that has been really, really important. Okay, and then let's see. And so again, the stuff about the artificial sweeteners, I really can't answer because I really haven't had any experience of that. Let's see here. Rocio Meyer asked, does exercise make you hungrier? I find it harder to fast when I lift weights. It makes me so hungry. Yeah, it makes me hungry too. When I was back in 2015, I was powerlifting and like really heavy weights, and I loved that, and then I hurt my back because I was pushing myself too hard, and that was not good, but it certainly makes you hungrier, and that's not something that I've had much experience with, like lifting heavy weights. I haven't done that since 2015. If I ever get back into it, I'm sure that'll be an interesting journey, because I know that people fast. I know people do OMAD, and still, lift really heavy weights, but I would be curious to see how much it increases the difficulty level. So, but yeah, it definitely does make me hungrier. A couple of tips on that. Try to make it as easy as possible on yourself. So some people find like eating right after your workout is helpful. I mean, I'm not talking about like any kind of optimization here. I'm just talking about like sticking to your fast. Figuring out, like if you're really, really hungry after your workout, like if you can make it through the workout okay, then do it eat right after your workout or right before your workout. And there's lots of different ways you can do all this stuff, but basically find what works for you, what you can stick with, and still have the results you're looking for. So, okay, I think we're coming up on the end let's see. Oh, someone was asking about the academy. They said they couldn't find it. And they were also asking, do you offer one-on-one support? And not currently. I'm not currently taking on new one-on-one coaching clients, and I've got the enrollment is closed for the academy. Again, that was just scheduling and stuff. I've just put a pause on all that stuff. Maybe in the future, but not right now. So, but that's why I do these lives, and also, like I said, there's lots of resources, my videos, my website, and the podcast answer, I would say, most of the questions you may have. Let's see. Just want to make sure that we get all the questions. Oh, Adriel? Hopefully I'm pronouncing that correctly. Jones, can vitamins and medicines be taken during fasting? Ask your doctor about medicines. People take vitamins during fasting. I've taken vitamins from time to time when I'm fasting. I don't really take vitamins that often, mainly if I find them in my cabinet and they're like just sitting there. I'm like, I should probably use that bottle of vitamin D. Not that I take the whole bottle at once, but just, but I've just, this entire time, I've not done any of that. I've just eaten food. That's what I do. And someone asked, does anyone have low iron from OMAD? I've never been tested. I don't think I have low iron. But certainly, again, it's one of those things, talk to your doctor if you feel that you are. And there you go. Okay, last question. They want to know how I publish my book. Self-published on Amazon. It's a really simple process. If you have a book that you want to write, and I was just a regular person. I am just a regular person. You can write it, and then basically Kindle, KDP has its own software. You basically can just copy and paste it from Google Doc into their software, and then it will create a book that you can just upload to Amazon, and then you can sell your book on Amazon. That's what I did, and it's worked out well. So, okay, I think I got all the questions. I hope I didn't miss anybody. Did I mention the DonorSeed project, Jay?
I don't remember if you mentioned the project.
Okay. If I didn't mention it, so DonorSeed is this great app. If you would like to help people in need, I love this app because you can, and I'm not sponsored by them or anything like that. I love the app, and I love the idea of helping people. And so this app connects you with people in need, basically. There are video-based projects, so they'll show you a video of somebody maybe who needs hearing aids, and you can donate some money towards that project, and then they send you an update video of the person getting the hearing aids, and it's just a really cool idea. I've been donating on that platform for years now, and I've always just loved the connection you feel with other people, and with the stories. And right now there's a project. It's a big project. Normally projects on DonorSeed are small, but I like to mention bigger ones on here, just because the more people that can see the projects and donate, the bigger projects can get funded. But this project in particular is for Whispers Magical Children's Hospital in Jinja, Uganda. This hospital is neat. The doctors and the nurses, they dress up, kind of like these fairy tale characters and stuff to help put these kids at ease. And they provide low to no cost care depending on the person's situation. And they need vitals monitors, continuous vitals monitors. Right now they don't have enough. And so, these kids that come in and they are really seriously sick, they need to be continuously monitored. That way the doctors know, like, if their heart rate or oxygen rate is falling. And so each monitor is about $1,400, I believe, and they're trying to get 10 monitors. I think so far, like $3,000 has been raised, so that's awesome. So if you have a little bit of extra money, $5 or something like that, and you would like to donate it, you can use the link that Jay will provide in the chat box. And also, thank you for watching this and for watching the videos. There's a portion of the ad revenue I get from ads on this channel go to support the DonorSeed projects, and you can go to 6milesofsuffer.com/giving back, I believe that's the link, if you just want to see the types of projects that have been funded in part because of you guys, because of being able to donate the money. So again, thank you guys so much for being here. Thank you, Jay, for being the wizard behind the keyboard, and hopefully we'll do one of these more often than the last time, and also be on the lookout for a podcast episode and videos too as I think of topics. Okay, thank you guys so much for watching. Bye.